What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Future Night Eric here, in a after locals restaurant with the boys, the house always wins. I didn't win locals. I went 3-1, losing to Tempai. I could play through 3 hand traps, couldn't play through 4 plus field spell, so it happens. But it was a really great day, probably the most fun I've had playing Yu-Gi-Oh in a very long time. And we took Blue Eyes. So this is pretty standard list, I think, for the most part. It's Blue Eyes Primites. Shoutouts, huge shoutouts to Aiden for literally giving me the Primite Lordy loads. Like, didn't want anything. He knew how much I wanted to play this deck and how long I've been waiting to play this deck. So huge shoutouts to him. Shoutouts to all the boys who gave me Blue Eyes, Don behind the camera, Kieran for hooking me up with high rates for staples, Don for testing with me for the last 3 months pretty much. Yeah, this is a very awesome deck to have, and the journey I took to get here has been awesome. So yeah, I just want to show off the deck profile pretty much, explain some of my choices, and for the format, yeah. So again, this is pretty standard for the most part. So we got the 2 Blue Eyes. I was at one point playing 3 because of Bestials, but because Raw can summon it from Banished, I decided 2 was good. The standard 3 Sage, 3 Maiden. We managed to pick up the 3 Secrets at locals, which is awesome. The 3 Wishes, and then I opted to play 2 Raw, and obviously the Field Spell. So I opted to play 2 Raw, and I didn't play the trap that non-target pops that counts Blue Eyes. I felt like it was not win more, but I felt like having follow-up was a lot stronger than having that kind of disruption. And uninterrupted, the deck puts up, I'm not joking, I think it's like 20 disruptions. Okay, that's hyperbole, it's more like 6 or 7, but the deck's insane. All of these are like 1-card combos, the 9 main ones. So any of these is pretty much spirits or spheres or double spirits. And yeah, the deck's crazy, but obviously Raw, I thought, for follow-up was a lot stronger. Mausoleum is insane as well for the extra normal summons. This is not once per turn on normal summon to add, so it's insane because you can just add this, or if you have 2, you can normal it twice and get like 2 Veilers, or the Maiden and a Veiler. It's so strong. These cards obviously make the deck. These are pretty much the only new quote-unquote additions to the deck, but they make the deck. So yeah, that's the Blue Eyes engine, and then I suppose the True Light. You have to play the 1 True Light. It is very cool that this only blows up the board if it's destroyed and sent to grave, or just sent to grave. So bouncing this or banishing this, which is very much prevalent in the format right now, doesn't do anything. And then you can just Maiden activate it from hand or grave anyway. So it's like, it's really cool. Little niche interactions like that can win you games. So the Primite Engine, and then called by just this one engine. It is 40 cards. I did have this in the side, and then my siding patterns got a bit wacky, so I thought let me put in the main, and it worked out. So Primite Engine, 3 barrel. This card is insane. 3 load, and then the 1 draw beam. Hard opening draw beam with access to Blue Eyes is insane, because then you can stop things like Imperm. You can stop anything on field, which is crazy. And then also what I found out is that normal summoning Barrel is a lot better than opening Lordly Load, because Barrel sets the Lordly Load, and then you can add the Draw Beam, and then if you have ways to play while keeping the Barrel on board, or if you have a Blue Eyes in hand, you have a Draw Beam that is now in a gate in hand. So you can play into boards really well with the Draw Beam, which makes me maybe consider playing a second Draw Beam, but its recursion in grave as well is really cracked. So this is the absolute minimum engine. This is insane. Again, huge shout outs to Aiden for hooking me up with that. And that's engine. There's 2 more, I guess, engine cards, but 1 isn't. The 1 Magnemite, and then I decided today to play the Grand House Dragon in main. If you don't know what this does, when it's summoned, normal or special, it targets up to 2 cards on the field, pops them, and gains 600 for every card it pops. So it can become, big, it can become 3,000, that's not the point. You're summoning this of the spheres. And I found with this deck, the biggest problem is when you get interrupted, and you don't have access to a tuner, you're ending on a Sphere's Pass, and you need a significant card to summon off of it. Summoning Magnemite to search Barrel in the end phase is pointless, because usually you have access by destroying it because you play the Primite Engine. So it's like counterintuitive in a way, having 2 barrels, where summoning this can stop a lot of plays happening. It is a hard brick. There's like no like real purpose it has in hand, where something like Jet or Jerusalem would. But I think it's still worth playing just because of how impactful it is. And then non-engine. This is brainless stuff. 3 nerf, 3 draw, 3 ash, 3 Veiler, which you can search, and then the 3 imperm. The only interesting thing to say about these is siding patterns. These allow a lot of the side cards to come in, because what I'll end up doing is I'll like cut 1 of each if I'm going first for crossouts, so that's already 4-5 spaces. And then what I'll do is I'll probably end up cutting the raw, which is super cool. Which ends up being, you'll see my siding pattern is 3 strikes and 3 crossouts, and it's just a straight swap. But yeah, this is pretty much, again, it's a very basic main deck, but the deck is super strong, and I just thought might as well show it off since it's started a new format. Extra deck, we got the fusion package. Sometimes I miss the second Neo because I'll use the Neo in my combo just to end with the protection from the targeting, and then later on in the game I want to make this, and I have to hard fuse it using Raw's Grave Effect instead of just hard making it. So sometimes the second one, it doesn't come up as much, it's more like I want it, if that makes sense. And then for the obvious stuff, we play 2 ultimates. This is just because we play the 3 normal spirits. It's just something to go into if after you're in a grind match and all you can do is make 1 spirit, the thing you summon of spirits is substantial. Because sometimes I find myself going into it early, or in turn 1 or in turn 2 in their turn, and then missing it later on. It didn't come up today, but I'm sure it will, and it has in testing before. So. We're also playing the 2 other pretty generic targets, so the Moonlit and the Lightstorm. Didn't come up, but a Monster Bounce, Spell Trap Top, you need Spell Trap removal, makes sense. And then I decided to play the Crimson package. This helps with OTKs, but also if you go uninterrupted, this end board, which is essentially the Ultimate Dragon and the Cypher, and then it protects them, is cracked. It's broken. So it just makes sense to play this to get greedy. I also had a play against Quads today. He's playing Mermail, where I had so much gas and I went double spirits and I wasn't locked out of any effects yet from the Lordly Load. And then I went into the spirit place to get to Cypher, and he had to nip me, otherwise I can make this and then negate the nip. And then I still had enough to make a Spheres afterwards. And then I went Spheres into Grand Tusk Dragon and he just couldn't play. And then finally, the 4 links. You have to play 2 of this. I wish I could play 3, and you have to play 2 of this because in turn 1, if you get interrupted, this is your main go-to, and in turn 3, if you get interrupted again, this is your go-to. So you have to play 4. You have to play 2 and 2. It's non-negotiable. The only cuttable cards really are like these, I guess. You could play a Typhon and an SP, but then your Spirit Dragons only go into the ultimates, which isn't great. And then other cut spots, you could cut this package as well. You could cut the second ultimate. It's really up to you, but I really feel like this is a good diversity. Typhon never came up. I've had Typhon in testing against Don, and I've had Typhon in testing IRL, and it just doesn't come up enough. It feels like if you make it Typhon, you're going to lose anyway. So the Blue Eye stuff is just better, just to have the resources. The side deck took a lot of crafting, so we ended up, because of how prominent Malice is, but how few Fiendsmiths we have at our locals and in South Africa, I think in general, I opted to side deck the Bastials instead of main decking them, because against Malice it's not great. Like, yes, you can banish their stuff with your Bastials instead of them banishing it with theirs, and like you can banish their stuff when they're trying to set up their graves if their stuff's already been banished, but it doesn't feel good. Like, it's not as effective as I'd like it to be. Obviously it's cracked against Fiendsmith, so we have to play it. But yeah, so those on the side, this is a no-brainer for the format last year. Malice is the most represented deck at our locals, so we went for the double whammy, and I didn't play any Malice, but it'll happen. So the crossouts, this deck hard loses to draw. It cannot play through draw. It makes like Spheres pass. So you play through draw, but you don't really play for draw. So you have to play this for draw, and then finally, probably the best card in the side deck right now is Strike. And yeah, so not sure how long that was, hopefully pretty quick, but new deck, new format, really, really cool. I'm very glad to be playing something that isn't lab, and yeah, appreciate it. This is Future Knight, signing out.